case there are replay viewers. Thank you. Let me just get myself set here. This is we had one viewer come in, stayed about 5 seconds, and then went out. I don't know what they expected to see. Thank you. Thank you, Deborah. I'm not going to put this on YouTube afterwards because, as I told hello, I don't have anything to say. So this was going to be a Kabbalah Q&A because in response to people's Kabbalah questions. And it's not a question that I have anything to say because, as you know, I'm not going to say your name, by the way, because I am talking to you right now. Well, thank you. But I have nothing to say than the actual what is. I think the is the blessed position. That there isn't anything higher than what we have before us in its own actuality. And these things are all individual things and yet unified things. So to answer a question that was posed earlier, is there a connection between these things? Yes, there's a connection. There's a connection between everything. But is that connection like dependent on the individual things? And that the answer to that is no. Each individual thing is its own thing, and every connection is part of it. And as I'm saying that to you, you know who I'm talking to here. There's only two here, and so of the two, you know which one I'm talking to. It reminds me of the wave and particle theory in physics. Something is either a wave or a particle depending on the observation. When it's observed to be particles, then the hidden thing is the wave. And when it looks to be a wave, then the hidden thing is the particles. So, with that, it's both. All things are interconnected, and yet all things have an individual existence. And as you know, that may be my philosophy in Judaism itself, that all people are interconnected, and that's why the prayers are in the plural and the we. Yet, the world was created for me as an individual. So it's a double-sided coin here of individual and community. There's an internal and an external. I was reading some things about, say, the mouth, and we were talking about prayer, and prayer is the movement of the lips. And before the Amidah, they say, open up, oh God, open up my lips, and so I shall declare thy praise. Well, quite frankly, the lips are the external aspect, the physical external aspect, and the tongue is the internal aspect. So I was thinking about that today even more so because I've seen a lot of these twerking or whatever it's called, all these pictures on social media of especially girls sticking out their tongue. And so that's like an internal aspect. The internal coming out. It's the same thing with, say, French kissing as opposed to the lips, the tongue. So there's two types of prayer, there's two types of language. It's the external language of the lips, and then the internal language, the internal of the tongue. I'm reminded of a friend of mine who used to speak in tongues. They never call it speaking in lips in the churches. They said, oh, the person spoke in tongues, because that's an internal aspect being revealed. The internal tongue is a different type of speech than the lips. And there are different parts of the mouth that are reflected in the 22 letters. There are 5 parts of the mouth, the lips, the tongue, the teeth, the upper palate, and the deep part of the throat. And different letters of the 22 come from different parts. And there's different correspondences in that. And that's a whole study in itself, which is shown also in Sefer Yetzirah, but that's beyond the point. So the idea of the internal speech. Another question that was posed to me recently was about, is action higher than prayer? You know, well, for me, prayer is action. It's a higher form of action because it has a physicality because you did it, you said it, and you're asking Hashem to fulfill it for you. So in the final analysis, it's a recognition that Hashem does the action itself. So that's what's so bizarre here, so high. That's why I suggest Psalms. To say Psalms, actually, in a certain sense, Psalms are the woman's prayer. They're not required to pray, but women say Psalms. Remember, there are 5 books of Moses, and there are 5 books of Psalms. There are 150 Psalms. The predominant word that's 150 is ka'as. Kaf, ayin, samak. Ka'as. Look it up. Kaf, ayin, samak. Means anger. And what really kills people is anger, because it affects themselves. So one of the ways to get rid of anger, ka'as, is to add one to it, add the aleph to it, that's 151, take a mikvah. If you take a mikvah, you get out of ka'as. But another way to get out of ka'as, 150, is to recite 150 Psalms. You see. So if you recite the 150 Psalms, then you're eliminate ka'as. And this is what actually ruins the internal organs in the self. The idea of ka'as. There's another gematria of ka'as, and that's Kaf, that's 100. Ayin, that's 130, that's 230. And Samek, that makes 350. And then counting the letters of the Kaf, it's fully spelt out, it's 2 letters. Ayin, 3 letters. Samek, 3 letters, that's 8. So the total gematria is 358. And that's the gematria of Nahash. And Nahash is associated with Ka'as. But the elimination of this Ka'as brings Mashiach, which is another 358 gematria. So that's that snake in the Garden of Eden, which is also the Mashiach. It's the same numerology, and when things are the same numerology, that means they're equal. So, as you can see, that's right, Gan Eden. That's right, Gan Eden. So, these are the things very difficult to fathom, how prayer is the ultimate action. You'd think, punching somebody in the nose would be the ultimate action. But actually, prayer is the ultimate action. And what the real prayer is to eliminate chaos in you. The anger in you. See? And that's actually not only, when I'm saying this, that's not only in Judaism, that's also in Islam. See, there's 2 jihads. There's the lower jihad, and that's what you're seeing when you see them, what they're doing now. And then there's called the Jihad Akbar, the greater jihad. And that's when you overcome yourself. So a person who's overcome himself is past the lesser jihad. Because there's always 2 of everything. There's always an inner and an outer. See? There's always a shell and an internal shell, internal to the shell. There's always a circle and an internal to the circle. It's just like, a cup on the Sabbath wine. Cup, and then there's the wine inside. So this duality is a very interesting kind of point of view. This was supposed to be a Kabbalah Q&A, but since I only have one viewer at this time, I know the questions of that viewer, and so I'm speaking to that viewer. But if there are any other questions from that viewer, please ask. One of the reasons I do Kabbalah Q&A is that I want to expose to Periscope a level of reality that hasn't been exposed to the world. Theoretically, this is being broadcast all over the world. The spinal cord. Everything comes out of the spinal cord. The spinal cord is a thing called the Kav. K-A-V. Look up the Kav in Kabbalah, in the computer. And it's spelled Kuf Vav, Kav, K-A-V. And it's also called Kav, I think it's Kav Hamidot. Also, no, but just look up Kav. And this kav is what comes out. There's a zimzum, a contraction. First, the world is created with all light. God permeates all light. It's all light. There's no empty space. So there's no empty space for creation. God is total. Right. So what they say is that the first act of creation is the removal of light to the side, so to speak, and it left an empty circle. And in this empty circle is the potentialities of the external existence of God, because he removed himself to the sides. And then what the kav was a thin line that came down. So look at this up in the tree of life. The kav comes down, spreading slowly, bringing light. So the kav enters the empty space. Basically, that's the spinal column. As you know, I think that's also the umbilicus, which is the real unconscious connection. Everybody thinks, now listen to this one, I've told you this, but I want you to remember this one. Everybody thinks that the bris, the circumcision, is what makes the connection to Judaism. Well, the real connection to Judaism is through the umbilical cord, because the connection to Judaism is to the mother. If you don't have an umbilical cord connection, you're not Jewish. See? If your mother isn't Jewish, then you're not Jewish. And so the umbilical cord is what makes you Jewish. Not the circumcision. Because women don't have circumcision, yet they're Jewish. So there's something deeper than the circumcision. And I just had an idea here. How about rubbing the belly button? This is for you. Rubbing the belly button. I don't know which way. Do it both ways. Stick your finger in, do it counterclockwise. I have a left hand finger counter. Now then do it clockwise. See the different feel. Make the belly button conscious. The real connection in Judaism is that every man and woman has a umbilical connection to their mother that gave them Jewishness. Now, there's plenty of stories about how everybody learns the Torah in the womb. And the 9 months is what makes the connection to the mother. So even if there's the mother dies at childbirth, there's still a connection to the mother. That's the connection. The 9-month connection is what makes a Jew. They're learning from the mother. And quite frankly, that's the end of it. Then later on, you become, through circumcision for the male, then you become Jewish. But you're already Jewish from the umbilicus. So this umbilical, since nobody's heard this, right? This umbilical cord has to be reawakened. See? And in a certain sense, by reawakening the umbilical cord, you will reawaken the spinal cord. Oh, let's see. You're not going to get into real trouble rubbing your belly button. If anybody asks you what you're doing, just tell them, oh, you have to clean it. Especially if you have an innie rather than an outie. It's a little humor there, a little umbilical humor. But you know what I'm saying here? Yeah. So that's the point is the umbilical cord is the kav. The umbilical cord is the kav. So when you read about the kav, always remember these things aren't so mystical. They have to be brought back into the body. Whatever read, God created the light and get down on your knees and be holy. He created the umbilical cord and the placenta and the blood and the human being. And you have to find all these things in the body, which is the temple. And that body is the temple. And for most of us, that temple is, there's only one wall of the temple right now. It was destroyed. So we're waiting for the body to be rebuilt. Meantime, the kav, since that's what you asked, the connection between the kav and how light comes down the kav and the umbilical cord and the spinal cord, and the connection to all this is because there's a cord. The word cord. It's not much different in tennis. There's a thing called the net cord that holds up the net. And the funny thing is that the net is a symbolic form of the mother. The mother is the net. In Greek, there was a goddess named Dictina, the goddess of the nets. So the net is the mother, and that's one of the unconscious lures to hit the ball into the net. Why? To be held by the mother. It's a primal need. That's why in rubbing the belly button, it might bring tears. Might bring into primal things. You might realize that you're holding in the stomach. I know I am. And in the whole area there, for a man who holds in the bris area. Imagine the tension and the trauma that occurs to an 8-day-old boy who has his penis tip cut off. You think I would have trauma and held in the other parts of that area? And that's one of the reasons they do it. So you will not be loose and open and sexual, so this guards you a little bit. Makes you social. See? And that's why the bris is so important. However, the umbilicus is higher than the bris. I have on my YouTube, Aleph Alif. I have a thing about the umbilical cord, about that. Anybody who, they have more people here, anybody who wants to, I'll send it to them. So, yeah, it's exactly right, some people bury them. That's exactly right. Some people don't cut them off. It's a wonderful study, the person who just wrote it. It's a wonderful study. I'm not trying to tell you I'm an expert on this. Read what they do with umbilical cords in other cultures, not just Judaism doesn't do too much. read what they do with umbilical cords in other cultures. How they let them naturally fall off. They don't cut them. They bury them. Not much different than the placenta, which in a certain sense is considered a double of the person, a twin. And in a certain sense, from some aspects of psychology, one is always searching for one's double, one's placenta. And I've done some comments on that because I feel everything is two-ness, and so the placenta is the kind of like mirror image in the womb. That's exactly right. I like New York City Village Cat. You know, I'm from New York here. I like what you're saying, New York City Village Cat. You know? Hi. You know each other. So I like what you're saying. You're right tuned in to what I'm saying here. Now remember, I'm Jewish and I follow kind of like a Jewish point of view on this. But if you're not Jewish, you don't have to follow the Jewish point of view, but the umbilical cord's still there. I'll tell you that. So what I'm saying is the umbilical cord is the kav brought down into the body. The umbilical cord is what makes a Jew, because it's the connection to the mother. And quite frankly, that's it. That's deep Kabbalah. Because the connection to the mother is, all you have to do is see people walking down the street with baby carriages, that the connection to the mother is kind of deeper than the connection to the father. So, since that was that one question, if there's any other questions, because this is, as you saw in the thing, Kabbalah Q&A, I have nothing to say except to respond to questions at this time. And that's what I'm trying to do on the Periscope. Open up like a channel, television channel, around the world. The tree of life. The best thing to do is to look at a diagram on the computer. There are 10 sephirot on the tree of life, and there are 22 connections to those 10 sephirot on the tree of life. So those are the 32 paths of wisdom. The tree of life is the body. 10 are the numbers, 1 through 10, that's our number system. And 22 paths that connect these 10 numbers are the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet. The Sefer Yetzirah, which you can read in English, is about this. And if you have any other questions as we go on, not necessarily now, but that's the tree of life. The tree of life is that this is Keta. This is, that's what the letters are. The letters are the 22 paths that connect the tree of life. Take a look at the tree of life diagram, Jewish diagram, say by Isaac Luria or something, on the computer. That's the beauty of it today. Quite frankly, my expertise is also to tell you where to find it. I'm studying 40 years, not 4 years, 40 years, which is another big number in Kabbalah. Studying 40 years, so if you ask me, I can tell you where to find it. And that in itself, because time is the real essence. People think money is important. Time is the real commodity. Because when you run out of time, I don't care how much money you have. I know going in, what about the number 8? 8 is the number. 6 is the physical number. 6 is the physical number. Why? Why? Yes, all time is one in one day. That's exactly right. All time is one. But just like I said before you got here, it's like a wave and particle theory. It's both wave, meaning it's all one, yet there's individual particles too. Yeah, obviously individual days. But quite frankly, everything is one day. If you know Deborah, ask her from my YouTube. I have a thing called All One Day. Let me give you the number 8. 6 is the physical world. Why? There are 6 physical days. The world was created in 6 days, and on the 7th day it rested. God rested. So 6 is the physical world. 7 is the spiritual world, because that's the 7th day. And 8 is the infinite world. And what's the big thing that happens on the 8th day? The circumcision, the bris. So it's beyond the spiritual. Another 8 is the 8 candles of Hanukkah. Beyond the spiritual. See? So 6 is physical. 7, it's the infinite world. Well, that's 8. 8 is the physical, is the spiritual world, is the infinite world. I mean, take a look at the way to write a number 8 in English writing. It's an infinite sign. In the vertical dimension, if you turn it to the side, it's an infinity sign. But always remember, I didn't make this up. Unfortunately, I'm not smart enough to tell you anything original. So, 6 is the physical world. 7 is the spiritual world. There's a Shabbat. That's 7. And 8 is the infinite world. 8 is the level beyond the spiritual world. And that beyond the spiritual world is reflected in the circumcision on the 8th day and in the year on Hanukkah, where you go up and light 8 candles. The number 40 is actually the letter Mem. Remember, Moses spent 40 days on Mount Sinai and then came down with the tablets. 40 is also the number of sayas or whatever, like leaders in a mikveh. 40 is a very, there are 3 aspects of 40 in a 120-year period. When Moses lived 120 years, 3 times 40. So 40 is a very big deal because there are 4 worlds in Kabbalah, each with 10 sephirots, as New York City Cat asked. So in all the 4 worlds, there are 40 sephirots. So it's a completion number. Also, there are 4 sides to that letter Mem, especially the final Mem. So it's a closed thing. 40 is... and didn't you ever hear life begins at 40? So it's a strange number in that way. But the big thing about 40 is it's 4 times 10. It's the 10 sephirots in each of the 4 worlds. Are you familiar with the 4 worlds? Yeah, good. But look up for cat. Look up look in the computer later. Tree of Life. That's the best thing to do. I mean, and then try to learn the names in Hebrew. See? Try to learn the Hebrew letters. Keter for the crown. Why is it called Keter? Well, this is the big study. And that's why, quite frankly, I'm thrilled to learn about the 8. I'm kind of focused on the 8-point star. Yes, very, very good. Very good. Wherever you, here, let me just give you this. Wherever you are directed by your own intuition, that's where you should go. See, I didn't know that. See, I'm only responding to your question. I tell you that you follow your own intuition. If you follow the 8-point star, or you have an inclination, a hush, a sensation, a feeling to the 8-point star, then go, you do it and go. You do it. You understand? That's your entree. Because obviously you're interested in the infinite world. So look up, yeah, right, go, here's this thing you should do. Look up Ein Sof. A-I-N, in another word, S-O-P-H. Ein Sof, that's the highest level in Kabbalah. And that's the infinite world. So what you should do is go to the infinite world and work back down. Reverse engineering. Don't start at the bottom. Start at the top. And then work down. Always remember the bottom is higher than the top. So when you work down, you want to do it in the physical world. There's nothing higher than mitzvot in the physical world. But you have to get there your own way. So if you want to start in the top, in the spiritual entity of the 8, great. Then you get into the lower levels of 6 and 7. Do it at your own pace. Don't listen to anybody else but your own unconscious. That's what's beating in your real heart. Follow your own real path. Your path, cat. See? You're not New York City dog, you're New York City cat. So, follow your real path. I see it as 3-dimensional protective sign. Exactly right. Notice that the third dimension there will be physical, spiritual, and infinite dimension. There's 3 right there. So if you're able to perceive 3-dimensional space, more power to you. That's why a cube is higher than a square. That's why a sphere is higher than a circle. What's higher? Did you ever see in Islam? They call it the Kaaba. You know what Kaaba means, by the way? Look up what Kaaba means, but I'm going to tell you now. It means cube. Did you ever see tefillin? You know what a tefillin are? The prayer blocks that a man puts on? Take a look for tefillin. They're cubes. So when you're telling me 3-dimensional, what do you think you're... That's the whole thing, 3-dimensional. So follow your own intuition. Because what your intuition is higher than other people. You just expressed it here, but you don't know it because you don't have the knowledge. So it's making the unconscious conscious. Follow your unconscious path. Making conscious takes time. Good. New York City village cat. I grew up in the village. Jane Daisy. Stephen Turner. Nice to meet you, Jane. Hi. If you have any questions, Jane, let me give you my... Well, if you wanted, I don't know if that's proper here. I gave it to my other good friend that's on right now. Take down 676 7740. It's 917 676 7740, and ask me any questions you like anytime. So, my good friend is also on here with you, and I know a lot of these things are specifically said to her here tonight. If there are no other questions, let me go off, because quite frankly, I've been talking a long time. I've occupied your time. And I look forward to you lost connection. Good. That means we're supposed to lose connection. So, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Bye. Very difficult to stop this. I'm trying to stop it, and it doesn't stop. It's like an idiot. I'm like an idiot savant. I can answer all those questions, and I can't shut it off.